We're about to start now. So first of all, a very warm welcome um, to the UNFCCC Secretariat side event, Learning from BTR Reviews, Experiences from the In-Country Review of Guyana's first BTR. My name's Xuehong Wang. I'm the manager for the Reporting and Review subdivision at the UNFCCC Secretariat, and I will moderate the first part of this event today. This event is part of the series of events at COP29 under the banner Together for Transparency. This is an initiative coordinated by the UNFCCC Secretariat, which covers a range of climate transparency related issues supporting implementation of the enhanced transparency framework. Today's event will provide you with an update on the overall status of ETF implementation, including on plans for the first round of reviews in 2025. But it will also offer an opportunity to learn from the experiences from those who were directly involved in the review of Guyana's first BTR a few weeks ago, sharing both challenges and lessons learned. I'm pleased to acknowledge the presence to our event today of our director, Dr. Donald Cooper, as well as Mr. Sarkhan Ismayilov from the COP29 presidency team for joining us. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Donald Cooper, to be followed by Sarkhan to share a few introductory remarks. Don, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Xuehong. I thought I was in trouble there for a while. Nobody's called me Dr. Cooper since I joined the UN a few years ago. One of the classic things when you become a UN civil servant is that you have to say goodbye to all those lofty titles and degrees that you got. I became Don, and often it was, hey, Don. When I return to normal life, hopefully I'll be able to get them back. I had the pleasure recently of having an extended vacation in Guyana at the expense of all of you, the parties. I went as one of the observers for the review of the BTR of Guyana. I was not supposed to interfere or intervene, just enjoy myself, just observe how things were going and make sure that we learned the maximum so that it can be applied to everybody else. I sat there really flabbergasted. I had to remind myself that Guyana was not only a developing country, but a small island developing state. The amount of ownership that they had over their submission was incredible. They knew every word, full stop, comma. I don't even know if they had any exclamation marks in there, but they knew them all. They put them there. The individuals we were engaging with could address any matter that was raised. Yes, we may not like the answer, right? But they had a response, a process that they followed, and a conclusion that they reached. And this is one of the greatest things we wish for all parties when they submit their BTR. Own it. It's yours. If we look back at many of the submissions that have been made on behalf of developing countries, and then we ask today, what was in your BUR submission or what's in your NDC, many of the current experts in those countries who are working on them do not have a great affinity with those submissions because they were not the ones who were intimately involved on a day-to-day basis in putting it together. And what we have seen as an end result in Guyana, we are seeing as a starting point in many different developing countries. I was again amazed during the engagement process that we had across Africa. And the confidence being exhibited by the individuals participating with us meant that they were going to forego the use of most of their consultants, and they were going to prepare the bulk of their BTRs themselves, which meant the similar thing that happened with Guyana, ownership. It is yours. Right? We also appreciated in those engagements in Africa that those parties understood that what you are preparing is the best BTR that you can. You can, not you can buy. The one that you can prepare. Regardless of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it really makes no difference whatsoever. It's the best one that you can prepare because it reflects where your country starts, where you start. And if you want to prepare one, say, as good as Germany does, when you get to year 20, then yours is supposed to be as good as Germany's is, because they've been doing it for longer than that. Right? It was this appreciation that it is more important for the global community to recognize in the synthesis report that this is really where countries are. And these are really the areas that need to be addressed. So we are very fortunate that parties are recognizing that the BTRs are the window to what their national circumstances are and where they wish to direct attention. You are highlighting what is critical, what is important, what generates positive responses for you, areas where you need help, areas where you can help. You are identifying those. Remember, in your NDCs, you highlight things that are important to you, whatever they are. And if you're going to track them, then that's what's going to be sitting in your BTR. Yes, you have the mandatory ones, greenhouse gas emissions, etc. But for a country with GHG emissions of 0.01%, you're not going to devote tremendous effort every year into updating that inventory. Maybe you'll update it every 3 years, but you will concentrate on other areas. And this was the value when the countries were doing it themselves. They could highlight and inject impetus into the areas of importance to them. So that beginning parts that we saw in Africa, in the Pacific, in Asia, in the GRULAC, and the end point is what we encountered in Guyana. So those positive beginnings transferred all the way to the end, right? Showing that that ownership indeed produces results. I will stop taking up everybody's time, but when you're impressed, believe me, you're impressed. The technical experts who participated were thrown in at the deep end because they were the second group, because the first ones were in Andorra, but it was their first time. For all of us, first time. And it was important to see how they engaged, how this capacity building and support to developing countries came over. how you made the countries better, highlighting the things that they were concentrating on, and simply taking note of the areas where they determined, nah, I will submit that in my second or third one. So the role of the technical experts becomes critical and multifunctional, maintaining the standards, but also providing the support. And finally, my colleague to my left, being the presidency, almost said incoming. It happened so many times that it was always the incoming presidency sitting next to us. Their dedication and support was amazing. They always participated with us, showing their support to the parties. So it's very pleasing to see the presidency represented here as a culmination to all of the hard work and effort that they put in, showing the importance, supporting the parties, and supporting the Secretariat in providing their input to help the BTRs get prepared. So as we step into this process now of review and presenting back to parties, I want to thank everyone and congratulate you on a phenomenal job. Guyana, amazing. And I look forward to seeing all of the submissions from all of the parties here and at the venue, and to have the poor Secretariat and the technical experts overwork next year in carrying out the assessments. So congratulations to everybody. Back to you, Xuehong.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Don, for the inspiring words and for setting the scene for today's event. You also highlighted the achievements that collectively we've made in making the journey to carry out the enhanced transparency framework. So next we have the honor to have our COP29 presidency representative, Mr. Sarkhan Ismayilov. And sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xuehong, and thank you very much, Don, for your kind words. As we always say, Presidents and Secretariat, we are a member of one big family. So distinguished excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, on behalf of COP29 Presidency, I would like to thank you for being here at COP29. I also want to thank the UNFCCC and Together for Transparency Initiative for hosting this event to underscore the importance of the enhanced transparency framework and highlight Guyana's experience with its biannual transparency reports. As we well know, the transparency is a cornerstone of our collective efforts to address climate change. The ETF under the Paris Agreement allows us to track progress towards our collective goals, build trust and confidence, and identify areas to accelerate the action. We are in a crucial moment for the ETF implementation, with a deadline for parties to submit the first BTRs by 31st December 2024 at the latest. BTR submission is a crucial moment in the utilization and effective implementation of the ETF, and we extend our deepest appreciation to those countries that have already submitted their BTRs, and we acknowledge this important moment by awarding these parties certificate as BTR champions at today's Ministerial Roundtable on Global Climate Transparency. We are also pleased to note that Azerbaijan submitted its own BTR early today, as COP29 President announced, as a part of our efforts to lead by example. We further recognize and welcome the efforts of all other parties who have assured us of the timely submission of BTRs. We extend our sincere gratitude to you, and Your commitment serves as inspiration to others in this final sprint towards the deadline. As we approach this milestone, it's important to come together to share lessons learned and discuss approach to BTRs. It is in this vein that the COP29 presidency is emphasizing the role of transparency through the launch of the Baku Global Climate Transparency, or BTP in short. The BTP aimed at being a vital platform to facilitate the effective implementation of ETA, foster mutual trust and confidence among parties, support developing countries in preparing and submitting their BTRs, as well as bolster participation in technical expert reviews and advance transparency agenda. Through the BTP COP29 presidency, in collaboration with UNFCCC and other partners, have organized several workshops in Baku, as well as in Togo, Kenya, in Kazakhstan, to strengthen the confidence and capacity of the countries as they prepare the BTRs. The COP29 presidency will continue to organize similar workshops for other regions in the coming months. We look forward working with Together for Transparency Initiative and other transparency platforms to host additional events throughout our presidency. Furthermore, today we are taking an additional step by highlighting COP29 presidency's Baku Declaration on Global Climate Transparency at this morning's Ministerial Roundtable on Global Climate Transparency, which co-hosted by with the governments of Italy, Japan, Kazakhstan, South Africa, and the United States of America. This declaration marks another milestone in fulfilling our shared commitment to the climate transparency and send a positive signal to encourage parties to meet their transparency obligations. We encourage all parties and non-party stakeholders to join this declaration to express their commitment to transparency. We congratulate Guyana for being the second country and the first small Iceland developing state to submit the first BTR. We appreciate that Guyana has taken the time today to share their insights and lessons learned as they develop their BTR. We hope that Guyana's leadership on transparency paves the way for more countries to submit their BTRs and implement the ETA. This is a crucial year for progress on transparency, and by working together, we can ensure that every country is well prepared to meet their transparency obligation under Paris Agreement. Thank you for attending this meeting. We are grateful for your collaboration today and future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarkhan. Thank you for the great collaboration and support of the COP29 presidency over the past year in working together with the Secretariat and other stakeholders in carrying out quite a high number of confidence building and capacity building events in supporting the preparation of BTRs by countries. And also congratulate you for the submission of the BTR of Azerbaijan earlier today. And also thank you for the information on the new initiative by the COP29 presidency, the Baku Platform on Transparency. So we look forward to really working with all our partners to make full use of this new BTP in ETF implementation going forward. So before releasing our two distinguished speakers, because I know they have other commitments, maybe we can do a very quick photo with our panelists, and then we will invite our panelists onto the podium, and we move on to our next session of this event. So yeah, so we'll continue, but before that, quick photo. Thank you. So, colleagues, let's then continue with our event. As just now, both Don and Sarkhan mentioned, we have made a lot of progress in terms of preparing parties for BTR submissions and also in rolling out the upcoming BTR reviews. A lot of work has been done. So now I would like to take this opportunity to provide you with an update on where we are with regards to the preparation for BTR reviews. I would like to hand over to my colleague, Alma Jean. She is team lead in the transparency division, and she's leading on the BTR review planning and coordination. So over to you, Alma.
Thank you, Xuehong, and good afternoon, colleagues. We know that the purpose of today is really to hear about the in-country review for Guyana. We will hear from Guyana, we'll hear from the experts who conducted the review. But before we do that, just to share with you some brief information. To remind those who are familiar with the review process, to remind them of the components, and also for those who are new, to provide you with an overview. So in this slide, we've tried to give you here an overview, just what's involved in this ETF process. As you know, the BTR, of course, is the first component of that, where these BTRs are prepared by all parties to the Paris Agreement and submitted by 31st December. Of course, we've had some early submitters, and we recognize those champions this morning. So what exactly is in those BTRs? As outlined in the modalities, procedures, and guidelines, which we know as the MPGs, we have some key thematic areas that are outlined in the MPGs. And of course, some of them are mandatory for all parties, and it's listed here. The GHG inventory and the progress with tracking progress of NDCs. Then we have specific to developed countries on the support provided and mobilized, and the corresponding reporting provisions for support needed and received by developing countries. As agreed, as mandated, there's also the voluntary review of adaptation. So parties who report adaptation in their BTRs also have the option of undergoing reviews of adaptation. So this is the BTR. Then what happens to your BTR when it's submitted? We'll provide you with some elaborated detail in our information session tomorrow. But just now, to give you an idea that this technical expert review occurs with every report that comes in. And what is this review? What is it about? And how do we demystify that message to you? The technical expert review will look at the consistency of the information reported, consistency with the MPGs, which fully outline for you what should be included in the reports. And then, of course, we have the consideration of progress with, and of course, the achievement of NDCs. Then, of course, we have the support provided by the developed countries. And of course, one of the key outcomes of this areas of improvement, and then the identification of capacity building needs, so that these lessons and those that come out of it can be reflected in enhanced reports for BTR2. And then once you go through this process with the team, your report is published. Then we have the facilitative multilateral consideration of progress. And you may recall that the SBI chair held an information session on that where the Secretariat provided some information. Again, we'll elaborate on that tomorrow. So in the next slide, we've given you now an overview of what happens, the BTR, the review, and then FMCP. How is this review going to take place? So we have two formats for BTR1. We have the in-country, and we will hear from Guyana today on the in-country. where the technical expert review team that is composed to review the thematic areas actually come into the country to review your BTR. So there's a lot of interaction in person with the party, and of course, the institutional arrangements are observed, and it's firsthand. So these reviews are scheduled upon submission. The Secretariat engages in consultation with parties, and there's an agreement on the date and so on. So this is what the in-country is, and that is what we are encouraging parties to do. According to the mandate, the first BTR is an in-country review. Of course, we have LDCs and SIDS have the option, because of flexibility, to participate in a region for the centralized review. So for everybody, we encourage the ICR, that's the short, but SIDS and LDCs have the option of doing it as a group for the centralized review. So in the centralized reviews, we bring everybody together in one physical location, and the members interact with the party, and the party interaction is remotely. So in country, where the party, the expert team comes into the country, supported by the Secretariat in country, and then the centralized, where we have everybody in one location, where we liaise with the party virtually. In the next slide, just to give you a quick update, and you may have heard this morning that we have 11 BTRs that have been submitted thus far. 2 reviews have been completed. Andorra was done in May, and you would have heard, for those of you who were there, you would have heard from them at the SB session in June. And of course, we had Guyana, and we will hear from Guyana today. We currently have 9 reviews that are ongoing, like we are preparing. We are liaising with those parties to arrange on the dates and the details. And of course, Andorra, we have the first published summary report of Andorra, which is posted online, should you wish to see what came out of it. And with that, I would like to hand back to Xuehong.
Thank you, Alma, for this brief introduction and updates. Before I invite our panelists on to the podium, perhaps if you have some quick clarification questions, we can take 1 or 2 for the presentation that Alma just provided. But of course, you have the opportunity tomorrow as well, because tomorrow we'll have an information session on BTR review preparation, and where we will go more into details, provide you with more information. You can also raise your questions there. So I see no immediate questions now, so I would like to kindly invite our panelists onto the podium, and then we move to our next second part of this event on hearing their perspectives as review experts and as the party representative. Of course, we also have another review experts connected online, and I hope that Anna, she's from Georgia. She's one of the lead reviewers for the Guyana review. She's joining us today for this event virtually. So with that, I will hand over to Alma to moderate this session. Alma, over to you.
I'd like to start off first with the party perspective for Guyana. So I turn to Nick. And Nick, again, congratulations on this milestone for Guyana. So could you share with us, Nick, what was your experience with the BTR review? Can you share on any challenge and or opportunities from the BTR review, which can really be insightful for other parties? Over to you, Nick.
Thank you very much, Alma Jean, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. As a bit of context, and as Alma Jean would have mentioned, we chose the in-country review. And in thinking in the best way in which to relate that, I thought the best way to do so would be in 3 categories: process, people, and cost. I'd like to begin with cost first, because I'd like to end with people. So as it relates to cost, the UNFCCC paid for all their experts and the team to come to Guyana for their accommodation. All Guyana had to do was provide a meeting room large enough for everyone. And as part of hospitality, just transportation to and from the meeting sites. So not much in terms of cost. In terms of process, you would have heard some of that from Alma, but really started with questions before the team came, giving us an opportunity to clarify some aspects of the BTR report. The team came to Guyana. They spent 5 days there. And we had the opportunity to begin with presentations to either clarify some of what we would have already communicated or to set context in our local perspective. And then from there to go through the findings of what the team had found and determined and to speak with them on those and to relate and to clarify. In terms of people, what was on show clearly was the knowledge of everyone. But what was striking is the personalities and the nature of everyone involved in the process, from Dr. Cooper, Alma, Dirk, Ruta, Javier, Riccardo, Oswaldo, Anna, who's online. We had Telma, we had Glasha, we had Kyoto, and who didn't make it in country, Sohail, and we had Sasha. But it is very striking, and it starts from the top with Dr. Cooper, a man of significant authority who goes a very long way to humble himself and be very encouraging. And this was one theme throughout the entire process, from everybody that I just spoke about, who went to great lengths to be very collaborative, to be very encouraging, and to give guidance to us. So what we viewed it as really was one big opportunity to learn and improve. And it was a highly collaborative process from which we benefited.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nick. Cost, process, and people. I think this is something that we can reflect on as parties prepare for their in-country reviews. Before we move on, Nick, to Anna and Riccardo, how could Guyana benefit from the reviews? For example, how could the review inform Guyana's national climate action, policy development, or even the NDC preparation?
Thank you, Alma. Well, we've benefited a lot from the guidance and basically the approach to things. One thing that we learned from the review is to look at the alignment or synergy between our RED Plus technical annex and our land use and land change section in the BTR. Coming out from that as well as efficiencies and also alignment with the preparation and submission of our documents. For example, we submitted our BUR in February, or BTR in April, followed by our national communications in August and Article 6 reporting. And basically the recommendation is to align everything with your greenhouse inventories and make sure everything comes in closer to each other. So look at efficiencies there. And as well as how we transition away from using the IPCC tiers and looking at our own historical data, especially in terms of IPPU and waste. So a lot of our approaches and how we look at things in the way we prepare and develop.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nick, for highlighting the efficiency, the transition to the IPCC, and of course, the importance of historical data in helping with your reporting. So thank you very much, Nick. So now we'd like to turn to our experts. And we have Riccardo with us. And of course, we have Anna online. So Riccardo, is an expert from Italy. And we have Anna, expert from Georgia, who's joining us remotely. So for Riccardo and Anna, being a review expert, what is your experience with Guyana's BTR review? And more importantly, how is this different from your review experience under the convention? Over to you, Riccardo.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, maybe it could be banal, but the first issue that is the first time that we review the inventory in depth, country by country, of developing countries. It's the first experience or review of developing countries. This is my view. You ask what is the difference with the other review. For some issues, I was a reviewer, and reviewing the inventory. So especially for the inventory, for some issues, maybe there are no differences in terms that the problems, the issue, the constraints could be the same between developed and developing, as for example, the institutional arrangements, issue problems put in place an institutional system for the preparation of the inventory. We discovered that the problems could be the same between developed and developing. But for other issues, of course, developed countries, as for example, a statistical system in place, activity data, time series, completeness of the time series, availability of in-depth data needed to produce the inventory. Differences could be higher because many developed countries have systems in place from so many years, and we could not find the same situation in the developing. So in my view, the reviewer, I mean, flexibility are already in the process, are already in place, but the reviewer should have a sort of additional flexibility in about this issue, trying to and the review could become more a capacity building. Reviews are, for me, already a capacity building process, because reviewer learn from the parties review it, and parties review learn from the reviewer. But in this case, could be the experience of reviewer could help more and try to identify the constraints and provide an help, sharing his experience on how to go over the issue of the lack of sufficient activity data. This was an example for Guyana about the sector Nick mentioned, the waste and the IPU, where it should be built the database. I mean, the basic database, or a good basic database to estimate emissions. So this is, in my view, the major difference and between the two reviews.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Riccardo. It's interesting to hear you highlight this capacity building need opportunity, not just for the experts, but for the parties, and to recognize the flexibilities that the developing countries have, and how that was very apparent in the reviews. So thank you very much for that. So now we want to turn to Anna. Anna?
Hi, everybody.
What was your experience with Guyana, and how has it been different from your previous reviews?
Hi, everybody. Warm greetings from Tbilisi. Thank you for inviting me on this panel, and thanks to Secretariat for accommodating me remotely. So I have participated in both the technical in both the international analysis and international assessment and review, as well as international consultation and analysis. So before going to Guyana, I had experience in reviewing the reports from Annex 1 parties, but also participating in the technical analysis of the reports from non-Annex 1 parties. So that gave me some kind of expectations what to expect. However, I found this new experience much more exciting in multiple ways, which I will try to explain. So this was actually the first time we did in-country review of a developing party. So that made that gave the team the possibility to interact with the party itself, and I found it very important that Guyana, in case of Guyana, the party was very well prepared in terms of understanding the process. From my previous experiences with non-Annex 1 parties, it was sometimes the cases where there was a different understanding of the process, of what to expect from the process between the team of the experts and the party. And because they were separate and they could not directly interact with each other, these differences were very difficult to resolve. You know, it came until the very end of the technical analysis process when they actually had a discussion on the capacity building needs and they were able to talk, you know, and clear up some clouds and clear up some issues. And sometimes that's quite late, you know, or during the process, because all the analysis has been done before that already. So what I found here was that the interaction between the party and the team was priceless. I think it was so important. It had multiple benefits. As I said, first of all, like making sure that the process is facilitative, that the process is like cooperative. The team and the party, they work together. They have the same purpose. At the end, the final goal is the same. And also, I found the expert discussions really I don't know how to say, fascinating for me. I think Xuehong and Dawn and Riccardo all mentioned capacity building needs, but I would say, you know, it was like more of peer discussions. We had, for example, like LULUCF experts from Guyana joined with the expert from the team from Brazil and from Mexico. And for me, I was in Georgia. We have different forests here in Georgia, but nevertheless, you know, it was so interesting to discuss and understand these different circumstances and national circumstances and different, you know, characteristics of the forest that they have, and how they all come together at the end with some kind of final assessment of the inventory, of the numbers, but also of how to improve and what to do, and not only for Guyana, but for other parties as well. So this was, I think, very important. This also created this possibility of networking, which, you know, as the experts to the UNFCCC, we know how important that is. We all know each other, but now we are bringing new people in. So new people from these developing countries who may not have been an expert until now, but they are becoming experts. They are becoming experts when working on their BTRs. So I think, I mean, I saw several very incredible people there. So hopefully they will join us in the reviews of, maybe they will come in to Georgia's review, etc. So, and one more thing, I think this process now, I mean, builds confidence, which which is so important again when we are talking about the enhanced transparency. So being able to go into the non-Annex 1 party, into the developing party, and be able to check the number, whatever it is, there, discuss it there, see the source of the file, and also this discussion process also builds confidence, because we see what the responses are, and we discuss how those improve. So I think those were the very important improvements compared to the previous processes that we have for the developing countries. I cannot say about any review of the developed countries BTR, because I have not participated there. But for developing countries, I think there was a big step ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna, for sharing on that. And again, reiterating the importance of this interaction with the parties. And parties, you are here. For those of you planning to submit, there's nothing to be afraid of. This interaction, as you've heard, is for your benefit. It builds confidence in this whole process. And so we want to really encourage you preparing your BTRs to go ahead, submit, and have this experience. Lastly, I mean, what Anna and Riccardo have said has really highlighted for parties. What I'd like to hear, Riccardo, Anna, just one last question that we have is, what's something, a key lesson or something that you can share with fellow review experts? You mentioned that you are hoping to see the Guyana experts and the excellent experts that you interacted with. What is one key lesson that you can share with the experts who are gathered here on this review process? Riccardo, Anna.
Okay, well, say, the first issue, in my view, is that one that we already quoted up to now. So to build a trust environment, this is very important. This is a sort of recommendation for the reviewers, maybe also for the Secretariat, to create a team of experts where at least there are a sufficient number of experts with a lot of expertise, I mean, because with a lot of reviewers on the back, because it's something that, of course, depends from the party, but also depends from the review team. And we were very lucky in Guyana because since the beginning, it was a real good environment, real trust. And they were very good in responding to all the questions in a very transparent way. So since the first day, the week was really a wonderful week. A second issue maybe is for the review process for the reviewers. It's maybe more for the future, and it's valid for developing countries. And it's also the first time that in country review, in an in-depth review, we have to analyze together in mission inventory, projection, and policies and measures. And because it's good practice, projection and policies and measures should be based on the inventory, not only on the time series of figures, but also on methodologies, basic emission factors. So also the evaluation of policies and measures should be based on what is on this, based on the status of the mission of the country, of the party. This is something that we in Guyana we reviewed the projection were based on the mission, but we did not explore in depth this interconnection between the two issues. But it's something that, in my view, is important for the future because it increases the reliability of our projection, our policies and measures, and especially increase the effectiveness of the policies and measures put in place in the country to reach the target.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Riccardo, for bringing this up. And review experts, just remember the linkages of those thematic areas that, as Riccardo has mentioned, and making the time to at least do this, and that advanced preparation that we need to fully cover these areas. Anna, anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, well, you mentioned already, but I think, yes, one of the lessons learned would be that the preparation before the review is key. And I think this is for everybody involved, including party itself and the Secretariat, but especially for experts, because this is a new process. And for some experienced experts, you may think that, you already know how it's done, but there are so many new elements included that need to be reviewed. And also some of the responses can be very different to what we have already seen in past. So I think it's very important to start early, especially with the questions, because, for example, in case of Guyana, some of the parts of the BTR actually were submitted as a response of technical clarification, such as an information for tracking the progress, and then the tables, also the CTF and CRF tables were submitted at a later stage. So it's important that to start early, to raise the questions early, and then for the party also to be prepared to make the timely responses so that everything is everything is available when the review week starts itself. In terms of challenges, I would confirm that I think at least for Guyana, all challenges were technical. I mean, in terms of technical. And I think one of the most challenging issues will be the reviewing of the tracking of the progress of the NDC, because of those varieties of NDCs that we have, and that the possibility of the parties to choose their own indicators and to track those NDCs. So for me, as an expert that was reviewing the progress of NDC, and I think for the parties as well, this was very important, and the topic that we discussed a lot. And I think the party itself left after the end of the review week, there was much better understanding of the possibilities of how this tracking can be done, both for the parties as well for myself. And I believe for Secretariat as well, because of this unique character of the NDC of Guyana and the indicator that they have selected. So I think this will be a challenging part, together with the inventory reviews that Riccardo already indicated, and projections and PAMs as well, but especially for how to track these different types of NDCs. And I think when we are finished with this first round of review, we will have probably a big repository of indicators that parties have selected for those different types of NDCs. And I think it will be very interesting, but challenging as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna. So from all that we are hearing, it's been a win-win-win. Win for the Secretariat, because it's, of course, our first time that we are doing it. It informs our process, our tools going forward. A win for the party, we heard from Nick, and of course, for the experts. Before we open up the floor for questions, Nick, any advice that you may have for other parties that will undergo the review?
The only thing that I'd like to say is something that Dr. Cooper says a lot and the team says, but he hasn't said it today, which is you don't have to have all the answers. It doesn't have to be perfect. And and you just take it from there and start. You will meet some very lovely people along the way. I made it a point of telling the entire team it was like meeting brothers and sisters that you never had. And I'm glad that I'm here today to be able to see some of them. And that's really nice. So that's the only thing I'd like to add.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nick. I want to hand back to Xuehong. As we open the question and answer session, we first from Xuehong. Over to you, Xuehong.
Thank you. Actually, before giving the floor to everyone for raising question, I have a question for Nick. Because, you know, in the past, the reviews, we have separate review process for GHG inventory and then a separate for NCBR, right? Which is more policy mitigation actions, projections, and all that. So it's two separate. And then basically we have a review team going to a country to do a GHG, and then maybe another team will come back to do NCBR. So it's two separate processes. But now for BTR reviews, we actually combine everything together. So I know in the case of Guyana, you have, of course, this GHG inventory part, you have all the NDC tracking part, and on top of that, you have REDD+. So it's really a lot of information for the review team in one single week. And you just now also mentioned, of course, we cannot have everyone going to Guyana, right? We have one or two, in a normal case, review officers traveling to a country to do in-country reviews. But then we have a much bigger team in Bonn, in the Secretariat to support in parallel. Could you share with everyone, because I'm pretty sure people are very interested to hearing Guyana's experience in terms of during that week, how as a host party you manage to find the time and space to have all this technical discussion and conversation ongoing? Do you have parallel or, and how do you manage with your team? How do you allocate your resources to go to parallel meetings, for example, if that's the case? If you can share a little bit more there. Thank you.
It's really about coordination and planning, knowing that everything is going to happen around a certain time, liaising with all your agencies, private sector as well. I mean, in that one meeting room there, which we sought to be large enough, we had it at our Ghana Forestry Commission. We had other persons, other stakeholders relevant to providing information and adding clarity. So beforehand, we knew the dates that it was going to happen. We alerted the agencies and relevant stakeholders that this is the time. We'd appreciate, we know you have busy schedules, but to leave open these agendas, we, as far as possible, try to schedule those persons for specific dates. So it comes to an understanding. I think our team, the stakeholders, have a very good understanding of, an even better understanding now. But in short, it just comes down to coordination and planning.
Thank you, Nick. That's very helpful advice. So with that, I mean, we have heard a lot very interesting experiences, both from the party's perspective and from our review experts. And you also have heard from the Secretariat, in terms of how we envision, how we plan for the forthcoming BTR reviews. So now the opportunity is yours. Any reflections, any questions? I already see someone raising the hand, so. Please introduce yourself, your affiliation, and then the question.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much. My name is Martijn Verdonk from the Netherlands. I'm in the delegation and also a practitioner making reports. You raised a very interesting question and you asked it to Nick, but I'm also very keen to know how it was for the experts reviewing the inventory. I don't know how many inventory experts were part of that team, and was it doable? for one person or fewer people, and also from the Secretariat's perspective, how was it difficult to find a team and with all the expertise or was it the same as usual? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can take one more, and then we. I see a hand at the back.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Paul Musi. I am the BTR project coordinator from Rwanda. It's just a quick question to whoever, whether it is from Guyana or the Secretariat or the review experts. What are the must-haves, especially with the NDC tracking chapter? I know you're advising us it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to cover all the indicators, but from your experience in the review, what are the must-haves in that chapter, because it's the most interesting chapter of the BTR?
Thank you. So maybe we can address these two questions, and then we can take more questions. So for the question from our colleague from the Netherlands on the review experts, right? How to allocate the tasks among the review teams. I would like to invite Riccardo and Anna to share their insights on the Secretariat's challenges in putting teams together, the approach. I would like to ask my colleague Alma and Federico to share insights. And then on the NDC chapter, what are the must-haves? I would like to ask Anna if she's still with us, because Anna is the expert who actually focus on NDC tracking, to share some of her insights. So with that, the floor is to our panelists. So perhaps Riccardo, if you can share some insights.
Decomposition, you say? The decomposition? Yeah. Of course, the decomposition depends also from the national circumstances. So in our case, in Guyana, we have a sector, Lucias, and then the rest. And so we were three inventory experts and two experts for projection. And of course, the inventory experts are in part also experts for projection. So we supported when as possible or where needed, if needed, the rest of the team. And in addition, there were two experts reviewing the RED Plus project. And so the LUCF sector was quite represented with three experts, one inventory expert and two for the RED. In the meeting, as Anna said before, the LUCF discussion were really very inclusive of all the experiences of the experts coming from different places, Europe, Latin America, and Brazil. So really, and Latin America, Central America and Latin America. So providing the different expertise.
Thank you, Riccardo. Anna, are you still with us?
Yes, I don't know if you see me.
I can hear you. So please,
Okay.
the DC, what are the must-haves based on your experience?
Yes. So I think the must-have is the indicators and the values for indicators, because without the indicators, the team actually cannot assess your progress, because the indicators are self-determined. So the party has to self-determine the indicators that are used to track the progress of NDC. The team cannot determine those indicators, and unless party does it, the team does not have any other tool to track the progress of the party towards its NDC. So I think these, so the CTF tables have helped a lot So if you complete the description of NDC and then the indicators part at least, that is a very important part of the whole BTR and of the whole transparency process, which is directed toward the progress of the NDC. All the other aspects, like methodological aspects, questions about Article 6, etc., that are very important as well, but those are things that can be further discussed with the team when the team is there, you know, discuss different versions, different variations, how they work, and then come up with some kind of a better understanding of all these different rows in the city of tables, what they mean. But I think it's very, very important for the parties, first of all, to start thinking about the indicators and determine those indicators and check the values of indicators and develop the MRV processes for the indicators to be able to then track the progress of the NDC. So I think that that's probably one of the most important parts of the whole review process. I hope I answered.
Thank you, Anna, for sharing these insights. Now I would like to ask our Secretariat colleagues to share more information on the team composition, you know, whether there are challenges going forward, and then what was the situation with the Guyana case. So, Federico.
Thank you very much, Xuehong, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us to this event. So in terms of the team composition, indeed, it comes with some challenges that the Secretariat needs to address on a regular basis. And maybe this is also an opportunity for us to remind you about an upcoming event tomorrow that will deal with these topics more in detail. So it's an event that will deal with expert participation in reviews under the Paris Agreement. So it will be an opportunity to further discuss and elaborate on some of the points. That being said, I think for the Secretariat, the effort starts by maintaining a roster of experts that, of course, needs to be up to date by parties. So we need to ensure to have experts that are currently available to participate in reviews. At the second stage, the Secretariat needs periodically to issue availability surveys. So all those experts that have qualified, that have become eligible to perform reviews under the Paris Agreement, receive periodically an availability survey where all the review weeks that have been identified by the Secretariat are illustrated, and they have an opportunity to indicate when they would be available and when not. On that basis, of course, the Secretariat, when receiving the BTR submission, will initiate the process of TRT composition. Composing the Technical Expert Review Team, or TRT, is indeed challenging because the Secretariat needs to ensure a number of mandated criteria that are aligned by the MPGs. Regional balance, gender balance, avoiding the involvement of experts that have supported the preparation of those specific BTRs that are undergoing review. And of course, ensuring that the thematic areas of the BTRs that is submitted are all covered in terms of thematic expertise. So one point that was mentioned a few minutes ago in terms of the number of experts that, for instance, were reviewing the greenhouse gas inventory, the Secretariat needs to find a way to allocate a number of experts that can cover all the sectors of the inventory that, of course, are diverse, and it may not always be easy to identify a number of experts that can cover all of them at the same time, making synergies when possible for multiple sectors conducted by the same number of experts. So, and then all this process, of course, needs also to take into account the mandated timelines that the Secretariat needs to respect. So once again, from the MPGs, the Secretariat needs to consider at least 14 weeks from the moment of agreement with the party of the review dates and the day when the review week actually starts. And once that is settled, of course, the team needs to be composed and finalized at least 10 weeks before the review week begins. And then, of course, the experts need to work expeditiously to review first remotely in their home location, the BTR and all the associated information, and make sure to send to the parties preliminary questions at least 4 weeks in advance. so that to give the party some time, of course, to consult internally and provide responses. So these are just some of the examples to showcase the challenges, but also the opportunities that the Secretariat is called on to deal with in supporting the process. So back to you, Xuehong.
Thank you, Federico, for this information. I would just like to highlight, to add that because of the resource constraints, we're really trying our best to find the optimal way to compose review experts. On one hand, to ensure that all the expertise that are needed can be secured. On the other hand, try to really have a relatively, this number of review experts that is manageable. Because if you look at having one expert covering one sector, then we are looking at such a big team, and then it can be quite challenging, both in terms of resources, but in terms of for host countries, right? In terms of all these organizational aspects. So that's what we are doing, and that's one of the challenge. But as Federico said, there's also opportunities for us to try new things, to be more efficient. So I'm sure, just Alma.
Just to add to what Xuehong and Federico have mentioned, although it was not a problem for Guyana, there's also a challenge with the languages, where we have non-native English speakers. We have a shortage of these experts, and that would be something as a challenge. And what we try to do is to employ a translation software so that we are not limited. And it didn't apply to Guyana, but for example, parties that submit in French and Spanish and so on, to have those the documents translated. And one of the key challenge that we got was the logistical support in terms of visas. This is also something when we compose the teams, we try to get ahead of time, because we do have some challenges of experts obtaining visas. And even when they obtain a visa or supporting documentation right at the airport, they encounter challenges. And we have had cases where these experts can no longer join us. So these are some of the challenges in addition to what Xuehong and Federico have mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you, Alma, for this additional information. So I'll now turn back to the room. I'm sure you have a lot of questions and reflections. Over to you.
Thank you for giving the floor. I'm a researcher from Wageningen University and Research in the Netherlands. And I wanted to learn from Guyana's experience, maybe from also the technical experts. What is your experience with the reporting from information on loss and damage? And if you received any support from the Secretariat or from the experts? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any additional questions? We can take one or two more. Over to you.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Peter Sirayo from Kenya. Thank you, Nick, for sharing your experience on Guyana's BTR. I just wanted to hear from you, Nick, in terms of which software you used to compile and analyze the inventory. And in particular, I wanted to know, because of the issue of generating CRT tables. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Any additional questions at this moment? Okay, I don't see. So now I'll give the floor to our panelists to address these questions. So perhaps we start with Nick.
On loss and damage, it is something that Guyana is very familiar with. As I've had the opportunity to say in a meeting before this, Guyana's coastline, 90% of our population lives on the coast, and it is 1 to 2 meters below sea level. We are very prone to flooding, both from overtopping of our seawall and from extreme weather events, both on the coast and in the hinterland, where a lot of our Amerindian brothers and sisters live. And interestingly enough, we are hit by droughts as well. In 2005, we had damage from flooding equivalent to 60% of our GDP. So it is something that we are affected at. It is affected by a lot, and is something that we keep track of because of the severity and the consistency of that ongoing impact. As to the answer to my brother from Kenya, as to the exact software, that is, I couldn't say at this point. That's not my specific area, and I can't recall the software, but I can definitely get it for you.
Thank you, Nick. Riccardo and Anna, over to you.
Concerning the reporting on loss and damage, also our country is starting to be familiar with it, unfortunately. We will report information in the BTR, in the chapter on adaptation, that is a voluntary basis. I mean, it's assured, it's not assured. And we have for sure a difficulty we can report the issues and the problems. For sure, we will not report figure number about cost, for example, on that. We're still not able to quantify the issue. And
Thank you, Riccardo. Anything to add, Anna?
Just quickly, that information on the loss and damage was not really reviewed because it was not the part of the information from BTR, and that was subject of a technical review. As Alma mentioned, there are specific sections in the BTR that are subject to the review process. And it's up to the party to request the review of adaptation, including, if relevant, the information about the loss and damage as well.
Thank you, Anna. So just to add on this, because there are the modalities, procedures, and guidelines for the reporting of information to be included in the BTRs, and one chapter is on adaptation, including loss and damage. And then this is really for parties to decide. It's a should, right? It's not a shall information. So if parties reported this information, and then there will be voluntary review upon the request by the parties. If the party requests a voluntary review, and then Secretariat will put a team, will include an adaptation expert in the review team to carry out this voluntary review of adaptation. We still do not have eligible experts to review adaptation yet, but the work is ongoing. The training material is almost done. We will roll out the training of adaptation experts, and then hopefully by the second half of next year, we'll have eligible review experts on adaptation. Any more questions from the floor? I know there are a lot of information to digest. But then if you have further questions, you can also leave that to tomorrow. Come back tomorrow, because tomorrow afternoon we have two events. One is to go a little bit more into details with regard to the BTR review planning. And then the other event is really on the review expert resources. What are the innovative ways to address the shortage of review experts? So if you have time, please join us for those two events. And also bring your questions tomorrow if you based on today's session, if you have questions, we are always available. And then maybe from our side, 3 key messages from this session I would like to share and highlight. I think as you have heard today, the new BTR review process based on the current experience of the reviews under the convention is really a mutual learning process, right? I mean, on one hand, the review process indeed validates the credibility of climate information. It also helps, enhance confidence and increase domestic capacity for data analysis and policy decisions. The review process helps identify gaps, challenges, and areas of improvement while also strengthening institutions and fostering a culture of mutual learning and support. Second key message is that as you see that the review new review approach is still being developed, tested, fine-tuned. After this initial reviews, we will slowly find the best way, but we are on the right track. The third one is that, as you can imagine, that the implementation of this BTR review process is resource intensive, and therefore we need dedicated efforts and resources both at the national and international levels. So in that regard, we really call on the support of everyone in the room. We all have different roles to play. And then we would like to work very closely with you going forward in implementing the new review process. So before we end, I would like to thank our panelists for sharing their insights. I would also like to thank everyone for coming to this event. I saw a lot of familiar faces, our very experienced review experts sitting in the room. I would like to thank them for their decades of efforts put into the review process to help us build where we are today. And I would also like to thank Secretariat colleagues. It has been a very challenging few years. And then as a team, we are really working very hard and to make sure everything falls into place. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
And everyone, just before leaving, if we may ask for your kind support in filling in this evaluation survey. We promise it will not take you more than 1 minute. So before leaving the room, while you're on your way, we would appreciate if you could share your feedback on the event and on the Together for Transparency initiative to help us even more in the coming round of events. Thank you very much.